Hello book lovers, welcome to Uncommon Reader. My name is Daniela and this is my September favorites, a special getaway, a literary festival, and see you later with a special book haul. Enjoy! It's mid-September. So far it has been a quiet month for me, but with the arrival of my sister caregiver, I'm really looking forward to what's ahead for the next 2 weeks. Starting with a dinner out by the sea and afterwards an impromptu stroll in beautiful Trieste by night. Next day, I visit Udine for an artisanal fair. I strolled around the booths for a while, but the main reason for my visit is actually to meet up with a new friend, which I met early this summer. She's also a fellow reader. In fact, we met at a literary event last June. Since that day, we kept texting to each other, and finally we could chat in person about books and life for hours. Of course, we ended up book shopping, and we'll share my purchases a bit later. Next, it was time to reconnect with my usual travel buddy. She and I share a 40-plus year friendship, and it's always nice to spend time with her since we don't have many chances to meet on a regular basis. Magically, we found a couple of free days in both our calendars, so we decided to head to fairly near Croatia, staying in beautiful Rovigno, but I guess it's called Rovigny in English. Our goal was a very relaxing getaway made for sunbathing, shade bathing for me, reading, strolling, and enjoying the views. Rovigny's story begins long ago. It was once an island separated from mainland until 1763, when the channel was filled in. Over the centuries, it passed through many rulers, Romans, Byzantines, the Frankish Empire, and local feudal lords. But its longest and perhaps most lasting influence came from Venice. From 1283 until 1797, Rovigny was part of the Venetian Republic. After Venice fell, it later became part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Then, in the 20th century, it was under Italian administration, especially between the two world wars, and later becoming part of Yugoslavia and eventually modern Croatia. Because of all the history with Venice and then Italy, Rovigny still carries a strongly Italian flavor. The town is officially bilingual. Croatian and Italian are both used. There is also a local Romance language dialect, Istriot, that some residents still speak. Architecturally, many Venetian features remain: facades, arches, the layout of the streets, even some of the gates and the old fortifications. One entrance to the old town is Balbi's Arch, built in 1679-78 in Venetian style on what used to be the city gate. Rovigny is made for walking. The old town rises gently towards the hilltop where the church of St. Euphemia's overlooks the sea. Its cobbled streets wind through narrow alleys, hidden staircases, and tiny sunlit squares. It's all pedestrian only, so you naturally slow down, taking in colorful facades, stone textures, rooftop views. Every corner feels like a postcard. Fishing boats in the harbor, cafe tucked into piazzas, artisanal shops selling charming souvenirs. We were so lucky to visit during St. Euphemia's Day, the town's patron saint celebration, held each year on September 16th. Legend says her marble sarcophagus drifted ashore in a storm, and only a small boy with 2 oxen could pull it up the hill, a miracle that made her Ravinia's protector. St. Euphemia's festivity started days before, and we saw the town come alive with music, food, wine, and fireworks. On our last evening, we took a small boat ride at sunset, hoping to catch a glimpse of dolphins. And we did. Can you spot them? If I could do this, I'd be there all day. The sea was glowing, the wind soft on my face, and for a moment it really felt pure magic. But I couldn't help wondering, with so many tourist boats out there burning fuel every day, what kind of impact are we leaving behind? It made me think, how do we keep this place and its wildlife truly protected? Next on my travel schedule before my trip to USA, I made my way back to my region for something close to my heart, the Pordenone Legge Literary Festival. Last year, I visited just for the day to see my beloved Azar Nafisi, whose interview I shared on a previous video here on Uncommon Reader. But this year, I was lucky enough to stay for 4 full days, thanks to a dear book friend who invited me to stay at her house. I got to listen to some of my favorite Italian authors speak, line up for their autographs, and talk to them, and just soak in the blessing of being surrounded by people who love books as much as I do. It was also a special chance to meet up with friends from my Italian BookTube channel, old and new, sharing drinks, meals, conversations, and that quiet excitement only readers truly understand. My days were filled with such joy. Thank you all for the love, the gifts, and the long-lasting memories. So nice to relive these memories. I hope you enjoyed. September was also very generous regarding book arrivals. Some I purchased, some new and some old, and some have been gifted. So I have to rely on my book journal to share with you some of those, because a few were from Italian authors, which I bought before my trip to the literary festival in Pordenone. And those were two, and one of those were from one of the authors that I actually ended up meeting at the festival, and I got his autograph as well in one of those books. I also bought The Scarlet Plague by Jack London earlier this month, and I may have shared this book already in a book tag maybe. Gosh, my memory is really bad these days. In Pordenone at the festival, I did buy two books from the authors I met, and both of them were autographed by them, which are Viola Ardone. And you might remember Viola from a book that I mentioned recently, and also I dedicated a whole video on her children's strain, which was one of my favorite reads ever, actually. And the other one is Bebelplatz by Fabio Stassi, who arrived second in a very important literary award called Campiello in Italy. And he was such a beautiful soul. I'm so happy to have met him. And his book is about banned books. It's sort of a essay, but in a narrative format, which is quite dear to me. Reminds me a lot of Azar Nafizi's style as well. Also, while I was in Pordenone for the festival, we visited a little bookstore that's actually linked to an animal shelter. So all the proceeds of those purchases will go to the shelter for the animals. Among the books that I bought, which were four, one I can't say because it's a gift, so I can't reveal it. Two were by Italian authors that are not translated in English. And then I got the third one was by Mario Vargas Llosa, and the title sounds like a really fun book, by the way, on Julia and the script writer. I loved The Bad Girl. I hope it's the right title, but I'll add the cover here. And now, of course, I don't have the books with me because I bought those in Italy, and now here we are with my little pack here from my recent purchases. So I went to a branch of the San Jose Library on the first day of my arrival here in California, and I noticed the used book section was quite rich this time, and I never paid attention actually on how cheap they were, because the hardcover books were $2 and the paperback were only $1. So I brought back 5 books and I spent $7, and here they are. The first book is Northanger Abbey, and then I have Mansfield Park, both unread books of Jane Austen for me. Now the trick is going to be which books I'm going to take back to Italy because I always travel light with my carry-on, and I can fit so many, as the carry-on has some, unfortunately, restrictions in weight. Anyway, you know, how can you resist those books for $2, right? Mary Benedict, another $1 catch, Carnegie's Maid. This is a mesmerizing tale of a woman who inspired an American dynasty. Clara Kelly is not who they think she is. She is not the experienced Irish maid who was hired to work in one of the Pittsburgh's grandest households. She is a poor farmer's daughter with nowhere to go and nothing in her pocket. But the other Clara Kelly has vanished, and pretending to be her just might get Clara some money to send back home. Serving as a lady's maid in the household of Andrew Carnegie requires skills she doesn't have, answering to an icy mistress who rules her sons and her domain with an iron fist. What Clara does have is a resolve as strong as the steel Pittsburgh is becoming famous for. and that may be more valuable to her than all the Carnegie's money. Carnegie's Maid is a tale of a brilliant woman who may have inspired Andrew Carnegie's transformation from ruthless industrialist to the world's first true philanthropist. Oh yes, very curious for this one. Okay, so this book got me by the cover. Isn't this a pretty cover? The title is Then the Fish Swallowed Him by Amir Ahmadi Aryan, and he is started as a journalist in Iran in 2000, and since then he published a collection of stories and non-fiction book and 2 novels. He also translated novels by Paul Auster, for example, and also Cormac McCarthy from English to Farsi. Wow. And this is a story of Yunus Turabi, who is a bus driver in Tehran and leads an almost invisible life. And this is described as an unprecedented expose of life in modern-day Iran and a universal and timeless story of totalitarianism. Yeah, I'm really fascinated by Middle Eastern. I always say it, and so I couldn't resist this book. And here it is, Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. So I've been hearing about this book for a while. I saw it on Renee's channel. I saw it on Pat's channel, and I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw it on the shelf. It's pretty much new, you know. I didn't see any writing in the book. It's pristine. And I got it for $2, and I can tell you I already read it. Yeah, I was too tempted. So I will talk to you about this book very, very soon in a September wrap-up. Then with my boyfriend, we went to Berkeley at Moe's, one of my favorite used book shops. And they also have, of course, new books as well. But I landed in the B section, and I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw this calling my name. I didn't know that a full biography existed on James Baldwin, so this caught my eye. And this is a big mammoth. There is a few pages at the end with some references and stuff, but it's still over 600 pages, and I will still have to bring this home because I can't depart from this book. Actually, I already started reading a few pages, and I'm using a highlighter so I can recall the important moments and starting from his school days. So I met James Baldwin this year and totally fell in love with his writing. I couldn't resist purchasing this big biography by Nicholas Box. Also, I ended up buying another of James Baldwin's books, If Bailey Street Could Talk. There you go. And this is a story of 2 young lovers, I believe. In this honest and stunning novel, James Baldwin has given America a moving story of love in the face of injustice, told through the eyes of Tish, a 19-year-old girl in love with Fonny, a young sculptor who is the father of her child. Baldwin's story mixes the sweet and the sad. Tish and Fonny have pledged to get married, but Fonny is falsely accused of a terrible crime and imprisoned. The family set out to clear his name, and as they face an uncertain future, the young lovers experience a kaleidoscope of emotions, affection, despair, and hope. In a love story that evokes the blues, where passion and sadness are inevitably intertwined, Baldwin has created 2 characters so alive and profoundly realized that they are unforgettably ingrained in the American psyche. Yeah, love his writing. So I got these on a Saturday, and on a Sunday, my boyfriend and I went to see another used bookstore, and I couldn't resist picking up On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Wong for $10, used copy. This book was highly recommended by Lecten at Reading from the Depths, and I kind of trust his judgment, so I was really interested in reading this book, which is a letter from a son to a mother who cannot read. Is that moving or what? Written when the speaker, little dog, is in his late 20s, the letter unearths a family history that began before he was born, a history whose epicenter is rooted in Vietnam, at once a witness to the fraught yet undeniable love between a single mother and her son. It is also a brutally honest exploration of race, class, masculinity, and our current American moment, immersed as we are in addiction, violence, and trauma, but undergirded by compassion and tenderness. The question of how to survive and how to make of it a kind of joy powers the most important debut novel of many years. Okay, and then I found another Jack London's book to end in glory. This is Captain David Grief by Jack London. 8 Tales of South Seas Danger and Adventures. And I think this was written or inspired by his travels with his yacht, the Snark, around the Pacific. Oh boy, my Jackie, my Jack London. Okay guys, I think it's time to say goodbye. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to see you soon here on Uncommon Reader. Take care, and I look forward to chat with you in the comments. Happy reading. Ciao.